So in this segment, we're going to be talking about the UK extending the grace periods indefinitely, and I've seen some people have some different takes about it regarding the WTO members getting involved and other such things happening, which we'll talk about it in the video a bit more, but I don't think that's going to happen too quickly. Anyways, Britain's government has announced plans to extend the so-called grace periods over Northern Ireland's post-Brexit trading arrangements, Frost has said, to provide space for potential future discussions with the EU and to give certainty and stability to businesses. While any such discussion, the government will operate the protocol on the current basis, which means like certain products that should be banned, like chilled meats, are not going to be banned, and certain other products that should be checked will not be checked. This includes the grace periods and easements currently in force, Mr. Frost has written in a ministerial statement. So what this essentially means is that Britain has unilaterally, again, extended the grace periods, and the last time the UK did that, they were warned there would be, legal ramifications if the UK does this. And it seems like the EU aren't doing that. So again, people in the comments will talk about the WTO and things like that, but it's a slow-moving process for that to happen. I mean, the legal action was going to take around 6 or 7 months from the EU side. So imagine how long the WTO is going to take to get any kind of legal action on this one, especially since Trump has decimated the WTO courts anyways. Leo Varadkar has said that the island expects Britain to announce further extensions to post-Brexit grace periods on goods imports into both Northern Ireland and into the rest of the UK. So that's two different things there. So I think he's talking about imports, sort of exports, sort of GB exports to Northern Ireland, but also sort of EU imports into the rest of the United Kingdom, into GB, which seems to be the case. Nothing concrete on that yet, and once that comes out, I'll try and update you as soon as possible, because certain checks are meant to happen in October, and it looks like that's not going to happen, because if it does happen, you're going to have a further crisis at Christmas, which is something the government, you would think would be desperate to avoid. There are already talks about a winter of discontent coming up, but the government don't seem to care too much about it. Very much reminds me of Ralph from Simpsons, where he's like, I'm in danger, but they haven't even gotten to that stage yet. Mr. Varadkar's expectation, so we mentioned that, is important that we use the period of any extension that may occur really to get down to business and try to put in place more permanent arrangements to make sure that the protocol is made more workable. The issue is that the UK fundamentally don't want the Northern Ireland Protocol. So you can't make something work when one side doesn't want it at all. And that's something where, people keep saying, well, if it's not working, then we should get rid of it. Well, the problem is it's legally binding and both sides agreed to it. And the UK even said the original grace periods would be fine. So I don't know what the EU's endgame is, because the UK don't want to play ball here. So are you going to retaliate or not? That's the thing I don't understand. Varadkar speaking following a meeting in London with Britain's Cabinet Office Minister Michael Gove, and it's interesting he speaks to Michael Gove, who has no real official position within the Cabinet. You would think he'd be speaking to Liz Truss or Brandon Lewis, one of those people, but no, he's stuck with Gove. Varadkar warned that any more permanent solution secured between London and Brussels would have to be within the confines of the existing agreement, so the Northern Ireland Protocol. So again, the EU is kind of sticking to their rhetoric, which is find a solution that exists within the Northern Ireland Protocol, and the UK government is saying get rid of the Northern Ireland Protocol or rewrite it completely, renegotiate it, the command paper, etc. So these are two kind of opposed positions here, and it's very unclear whether the EU are going to realise that the UK really don't want to play ball here. I don't know how this one ends. Varadkar said Gove had told him that Britain doesn't want to walk away from the protocol, but does want to make it more workable. But the problem is the UK wants to renegotiate it, which the EU aren't going to do. The Northern Ireland Protocol took a bit of time to get done, especially because the original compromise was the entirety of GB GB and NI stay within the customs union and the single market until they come up with a solution with regards to the island border problem, which no one has come up with because no such solution exists yet, in terms of, it won't exist for a long time. Last week, Varadkar said he would not object to grace periods delaying checks on some goods entering Northern Ireland being extended beyond this month, so another extension But the issue is that Lord Frost has announced a indefinite extension to the grace period, so that could be years, or that could be until Irish unification if that ever happens. Essentially, Northern Ireland is effectively kept in the EU single market for goods by the protocol, which prevents a hard border on the island of Ireland and has created trade barriers with GB. Unionists have pressured for the abolition of the protocol, but the EU repeatedly rejected the UK's government's plans to negotiate it. On Saturday, Frost said the UK will not sweep away the Northern Ireland Protocol, as he warned conflict over the deal risk creating cold mistrust with the European Union. So again, he's talking a load of undiluted rubbish. The issue is that the solution, so if we look at it again via the map, it might be easier. So this essentially is where the trade border exists between GB and NI. Sorry if the mouse is moving a bit quick, I'll slow it down. So here is the trade barrier, right? I can't draw on this, which is unfortunate, but you've got a trade barrier exists here, okay? So goods going from GB to NI are checked. Right, and what that is designed to do is stop a hard border going here between Northern Ireland and the rest of Ireland. So that stops a hard border essentially, and by doing this, it keeps Ireland within the EU single market down here. So goods going from Ireland can go into Spain, France, or wherever, Germany, Portugal, etc., with no problems. But the problem is once you get rid of the Northern Ireland Protocol, there are only a few options that remain from there. So, for example, hormone beef or whatever goes from GB to NI, okay? That could easily go into Ireland because there are no checks here. No actual checks here that happen, not fundamentally anyways. And then from Ireland they could go anywhere into the rest of the EU single market, which is something that the EU are desperate to avoid. So that means, do you put a border here? Well, no, because if you do that you risk the return of the Troubles, which is something no one wants, especially given how much sacrifice went into getting the Good Friday Agreement. It was a massive international effort from multiple different countries to get that, which fundamentally, if we had the situation where we have now, the Good Friday Agreement probably wouldn't have happened, in all honesty. But I'm no expert in the field, so I won't comment further on that. So if you've got a situation where you get no hard border within the island of Ireland, but you have no trade border here, that means those kind of goods that aren't allowed in the EU single market will be allowed into the EU single market because there are no checks here or here. So what that means is goods going into... I'll tell you what, next time I do this, I'll take a print screen of this so I can draw lines. That'd be easier. So essentially what that means is goods going from Ireland that aren't allowed typically within the EU single market because they're too low standard could go from Ireland to, say, France, or to, say, Belgium, or to, say, Germany, and that breaches kind of the fundamentals of the EU, which is that they don't allow certain products to be manufactured or imported into the EU single market because they're too low standard. And so at that point do you take Ireland out of the EU single market and customs union? No, because that simply won't work, and Ireland will cause massive problems if that does happen. Not to forget the fact that it makes the EU look very stupid because they've favoured essentially a former member over a current member, and also a coloniser over the colony. Let's not forget Ireland was a colony of the United Kingdom. So, again, that's not going to happen. You're not going to put a trade border here essentially between Ireland and GB. So if you don't do any of those steps, if you get rid of the Northern Ireland Protocol, you don't do a hard border within the island of Ireland, you don't do a trade barrier between Ireland and the rest of the EU, that means that those goods that aren't allowed typically within the EU will be allowed into the EU. And so that's why the Northern Ireland Protocol exists, essentially to avoid all of those other options. But if the UK is successful in getting rid of the Northern Ireland Protocol, or just continues to allow grace periods indefinitely, especially when that Australian beef kicks in, I don't know what happens from there. I don't know at what point do the EU actually say, nah, enough's enough, I'm not going to watch this anymore. Essentially have the big Gohan moment versus Cell. In terms of WTO members, we'll discuss that now. The WTO is a very political court, and so certain countries won't make decisions if it's bad politics. So, for example, the US might not sue the UK because the US may want a trade deal with the UK eventually. Especially if it's a trade deal which bullies the UK into accepting certain terms, especially from big pharma and big farms. The UK is a massive agricultural superpower, and so they could force the UK to accept a deal where we're going to have to take crappy beef from them as well. China could also do the same. I don't know which WTO member is going to sue the UK with regards to this. Also, could potentially the EU get into trouble over this as well, because they're allowing goods potentially into the EU single market and customs union that they wouldn't allow from other sort of third countries. So I don't know which country is actually going to make that move and sue the UK if we continue to allow this trade problem here. So I wouldn't be gambling on the World Trade Organization yet, especially because those kind of court proceedings take many years, I think, to resume, to actually get anywhere. And not forget, Donald Trump has decimated the WTO courts, which I still think they are not up to scratch, sort of where they were pre-Trump. And if that's not true, then someone hopefully will correct me in the comments for that. It's not the best research on my part, but fundamentally, point being is that if the Northern Ireland Protocol falls, it's going to cause massive problems for the EU, hence why the EU are kind of clinging on to it. But the UK don't see any consequences to their actions. They'll continue to do what they're doing. The EU has paused legal action. They haven't unpaused it yet. That's going to be probably until October, the end of October potentially, until that gets resolved, especially because I don't think the courts reopen until October anyways. So the EU are put in a situation where they thought the UK would potentially negotiate in good faith, and that hasn't happened. And so the question is, what are the EU going to do in this case? And I'm not seeing a lot. This is from the great Lisa Carroll, who said the grace periods for Northern Ireland to be extended indefinitely by the UK, confirmed it in written ministerial statement. He said, we will continue to talk to the EU to see if it is possible to make genuine and substantive progress on the proposals in our command paper. So essentially saying, accept the command paper, or this is it now, on the operation of the Northern Ireland Protocol, in order to provide time and political space for these discussions and to give businesses as much trading certainty as possible. We've announced today that we will maintain the existing arrangements for goods moving between GB and NI, including the current grace periods and easements. So all of those grace periods that were meant to expire, I think, at the end of September, have all been extended indefinitely. And so again, I'll ask the audience, what kind of faith do you have with Ursula von der Leyen and, of course, Maros Sefcovic and the rest of sort of the EU Commission and, of course, the EU members? Sort of you're talking about the leaders of nation states at this point. What are they going to do about this? I don't know, because in my opinion, the optics aren't great. It does look like the UK are bullying the EU a bit, saying accept the command paper or we're going to continue to do indefinite extensions and you can't stop us. My interpretation could be wrong, and I'll 100% accept that if it is wrong. But if my interpretation is wrong, come with some facts, because at the moment the WTO will not be the saviour in this one, at least not for a while, and that's even if one of the members strikes up the courage to take the UK to court to the WTO, essentially, to say, well, what you guys are doing is unfair under the most favourable nations article or protocol, whatever it's called. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.